Hey, this is the one-man gold mine, the one-man enterprise of professional wrestling and all entertainment, Flynn Hendricks. And you better believe when I'm looking for a good podcast to listen to, I go to my own. I go to the I Know You Hear Me podcast hosted by me, Flynn Hendricks. That is such a fresh perspective for how you should look at life, too. I love that. And then when I'm feeling spooky, I go to my other podcast, Tales from the Haunt, where I want my head shoved inside a 15-pound silicone mask. More. I want to have a bucket of sweat coming off me at the end of the night than just Jeff.
Dogs don't lay eggs, Flynn.
I hate you so much.
Talk to other scare actors about what it takes to get into the world of scare acting. So if you're curious about how people became professional wrestlers, actors, prioritized their mental health, became entrepreneurs, avoided burnout, or got into scare acting, you need to go check out I Know You Hear Me and Tales from the Haunt, available on all podcasting platforms. And I know you hear me.
Wrestling fans, promoters, wrestlers, and anyone who enjoys pro wrestling now have something new to be excited about. The Wrestling Fans International Association, the WFIA, is back. WFIA is an association that exists to promote, grow, and support professional wrestling throughout the world. Membership is free. Your membership includes a free digital bi-monthly publication of the Wrestling Fan News newsletter, association updates, voting privileges, and much more. Please go to thewfia.org, that's THEWFIA.org, and become a member today.
Welcome, everybody, to the PWZ podcast. This is the Professor, Rick Del Santo. I've got a very special guest from Blood, Sweat, and Tears Wrestling, Harry Davila. What is going on, my friend?
It's going well. It's going well.
I can't believe we've gone this long without having you on this show, considering I've known you for a couple years now. And, we got to fix that. So I'm glad we got to fix that now.
Yes.
Going forward, it's not going to happen like that.
This last year, for obvious reasons, now being a father to my second child, my daughter, my time has really been very scarce, I guess is the word. I don't have that much time, and I wanted to come on, but then something would come up, and I'm like, all right, I got to take care of this, getting everything ready for the baby. But I'm glad now, baby's good and healthy. I have a little more time on my hands, to get something done. I plan on being on here, hopefully with you a couple more times, because we've had some great conversations.
Well, that's the thing I was about to mention, that every time we see each other, we're at a show or God knows where, and we literally sit down or just post-show, we'll sit and talk for a good hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, just about professional wrestling, not necessarily about any particular, but we're just throwing off a lot of different memories and stuff that's going on in the scene. And so that is why I'm very glad to be here, because I'm sitting here like we should definitely be recording our conversations. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I heard. I saw what I heard what happened. I saw you kind of make note of it, but I can still hear you.
Okay, apparently, all right. I'm glad you did, because something happened to my. I was talking, and we're back. Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
All right. So as I was saying, man, we just always have these great conversations about professional wrestling. Whether we're talking times we sat that we talked about GCW. The other one, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, and of course the company that you're associated with, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, which has been on a rampage as of late. And you guys have been ripping it up, putting on some fantastic shows, and we're going to get into your upcoming show that's coming up in just about 2 weeks. No, about a week from now.
Just under 2 weeks. We're about 13 days out. Super excited.
Yeah, and fortunately, I'm sorry that I'm unable to attend. I have a wedding to go to that day. My sister-in-law is getting married for
family first.
Family first. Come on, man. If this is your third wedding, I don't think that I should have to go. Come on. But there is open bar. So that I'm happy for.
One benefit. There's gonna be other shows of I'm gonna miss you being there, but you're always welcome in the BSD household.
Yep. And that's right in my backyard. I work downtown New Haven. You guys are not that far outside of the downtown area in that
Nope.
stuff. And you guys are making your New Haven debut. This
Yes,
is April 8th, correct?
that
Is
is
that correct?
correct.
That's correct. So that's probably next Friday, I'm guessing, if I'm getting the day
Next
right.
next
Is it
Saturday.
Saturday? Next Saturday. My
Next
bad.
Saturday.
Sorry.
Not this Saturday, this WrestleMania weekend. Next Saturday. We are elevating the game, so to speak.
Oh, and it's a hell of a lineup. I have the lineup
Yeah.
here. And we're going to break that down. But first, I want to talk a little bit about professional wrestling in general, how you got interested in the sport of professional wrestling. What's your age? So what year were
I
you born?
I am 37 years old.
Okay, so you're not that much younger than me. But you do, so
I
you do have some really good time. So you grew up in
yeah,
a time where wrestling was still pretty awesome, if I
the
do
golden
say so.
age. The
Yes,
golden age.
exactly.
Um
How did you
yeah,
discover and what got you interested in the sport of professional wrestling? Because that's always my favorite story to ask somebody, my favorite question, because everybody's story is always very unique in how they discovered it and
yeah.
how, like, I literally walked into a room and my cousin was watching it. Roddy Piper was on TV,
And
and I fell in love with professional wrestling. I
who
bought the
better?
magazines at a newsstand around the corner from my house, and I didn't attend my first show until 4 years later. But when I attended my first show, I became completely obsessed.
Okay, so now I'm gonna ask you a question, being that you said that. How old were you when you walked in the room?
I had to be roughly 8 years old,
Okay,
maybe,
so you were
maybe.
looking at
I'm
13 for you.
I'm guessing it had to be 1984 to 1985. I think it was like the War to Settle the Score, or something like that on
Okay.
MTV is what my cousin was watching. So it had to be like 84 or 85.
Okay. So I my earliest memory, I can't okay, so if I'm being honest, I cannot pinpoint exactly what made me go, this is it.
Hmm.
There's been so much stuff that I've been able to experience, luckily and blessed to be able to experience. But I couldn't even give you the exact day. I do remember as a child, my first legit memory is 91.
Okay.
No, the Hogan Taker at Survivor Series. 90?
I no,
No,
because he
91.
came in 1990, so it might have been 91. Yeah.
91. Okay. So yes, that's the first like memory in my head of professional wrestling. Um I did I do remember my first live event. And I've been blessed to have experienced some cool things. January 90 no, January 91. So
Okay.
that was so a little before that. So let's go back a little before that. That was my first memory because I remember going to January 91, Madison Square Garden, blue
Hmm.
steel cage, Macho Man Randy Savage, Ultimate Warrior.
That was your
Right before
first live event ever,
that's
and
my
you go into
first
Madison
live
Square.
event. It is on the network.
Well, because when I was, you're a little bit younger by a few years, we'll just say it's a decade. All right. But anyways, um, I used to watch those MSG shows live on TV
Yeah.
every time they aired, and I remember the match you're referring to, and I remember that show actually. It is up
So
on the Peacock.
there's a part at the end of that match where Sherry's in the cage and she's climbing, and Warrior grabs her and Warrior rips her dress. And
Mhm.
I'm sitting there with my cousin Steven and my cousin Andrew, and we're passing the binoculars. Like, I need to see this too. You know what I'm saying? Like to show you like where I was seated, but that was my first live experience. I can the earliest memories of me as a kid, for the most part, revolve around wrestling.
Yeah.
I can tell you about times where I went to Puerto Rico and all I would watch on WAPA TV is like Invader number one and Huracan Castillo versus Jason the Terrible or Carlitos Colon. I can go back years and it's always been something that has been a part of my life in some way, shape, or form.
also used to go back to, like you said, Puerto Rico, and you used to catch the WWC, the World Wrestling
Yes.
Council, which was run
Yeah.
by Carlos Colon, and at one
Mhm.
point Gorilla Monsoon was heavily involved
Yep.
in that as well back in his earliest form. I think he might have lost association in the early '80s. If I could be wrong with that the time frame, but
Right
go
after
ahead.
like the Capital Sports like
Yeah, I believe it.
separation and stuff.
Stuff like that, yeah, yeah. Because
Yeah.
there was also an NWA group at one time. If you remember watching the older and WWC in the earlier days, it would always have like a orange or a maroon and yellow NWA logo right on the banner, on the ring apron. No, that's
No, I don't
definitely
remember
early,
that.
too early. Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
used to get the tapes. I used to get the tapes all the time. I used to
Okay.
have some of the commercial tapes that came out. I remember going to you remember the Chiller Theater? Do you ever go to that out in New Jersey? Gigantic horror convention, a whole weekend of
No.
it. It's one of the biggest
I
conventions in the area.
I never got a
I
chance to do a horror like anything horror related, like
Yeah,
the horror cons and stuff like that as a young kid. Um, Only because it's like my mom just couldn't afford it, I guess.
yeah. No, this was
You
a
know,
big thing. So when I went out there one year, they had this guy set up his entire table was old WWC VHS tapes from Puerto Rico. I literally spent probably every penny I had just on those. I had like a whole box full, and they were all the commercial versions in the old clamshell, like the old Disney type
hmm
clamshell cases.
oh,
And
like
in the names that were on there, Sheep Herders, Al Perez, every name you can think of that was a star in the 1980s always went down to Puerto Rico. So they just
yeah,
released all these
absolutely.
videos, and it was just an amazing watch, man, to get all these videos.
Speaking of like eggshell type casings, I going back to like early childhood, I had a couple VHSs that my uncle had brought me. I want to say from Puerto Rico. I'm not even 100% sure if I'm being honest. Um, but it was the best of Hulkamania
Yep.
and the black. Remember the black like card? They looked like the eggshell cases from Disney, but
With
they
the
were
card.
all black, and it'd be like
Yep.
WWF Best of Hulkamania.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
had that. I had a Warrior one. I had Survivor Series, and then I had like Best of SummerSlam. I want to say those were like the first tapes I ever got a hold of as far as like a kid. I would
Right.
rewind those bad boys all day long. And then I discovered WCW. And man, did my life change. Because as a kid, you got like, these really cartoony characters. You got like your Hulk Hogan, Macho Man's Ultimate Warrior. Then you turn on Southern Wrestling WCW on TBS 605, Saturday nights, and you got the Nature Boy Ric Flair, guys like Sting, Arn Anderson, who Arn Anderson will forever be in my top 10 favorite wrestlers of all time. Arn Anderson is a gem.
I'm going to tell
Everybody should,
you, I am so happy that this is why we get along so well, because
yeah,
Arn is literally my top five, has always been my top five. I remember when my friend, he's been on this podcast, my friend John, he does a podcast, Shocking Things, it's a horror and, cult film related podcast.
okay,
He came on, and I remember being at his house one day, and his father asked me who my favorite wrestler was, and I said, Arn Anderson. And he like freaked out. He's like, really?
yeah.
Arn Anderson? I said, dude, the dude's the best. Watch him. He's the best. He had the best DDT, the best spine buster. And Arn was the one, like the guy just had so much freaking intensity in the ring. And I've always said between Arn, and I know it's probably the second time in the last couple episodes I've mentioned this name that maybe I shouldn't, but Arn and Chris Benoit are on the top of my list for as far as like pure intensity.
Listen, it's hard to separate what happened with Benoit to what Benoit was to a lot of like hardcore wrestling fans.
I don't really necessarily care, because I mean, it's not that I don't care. Let me rephrase that. Of course I care what he did outside the ring, but I'm going to tell you, I will literally sit there and go back and watch hours upon hours of Benoit any given day, because he was still that what he did does not take away from the incredible career that he had.
I would fair to say that if that never happened,
Mhm.
Benoit would easily be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
100%.
You know, I can when Benoit came, I remember Benoit. The earliest memory of Benoit is the commercial. Everybody who's a wrestling fan has probably seen at least once him tossing Sabu up and Sabu landing right on his neck.
Yes.
And I remember as a kid when they first showed up on WCW, and my cousin's going, "This guy looks like a clown," and I'm like, "Dude, you have no idea." None, because I'm watching ECW at the time. So
Yep.
I know who these gentlemen are, and I'm just excited because I know what's going to happen next, the platform that they're going to have. But going back to Arn, um, Arn was the best horseman to me.
Yeah.
Flair isn't the best horseman. I'll argue anyone with that. He's not
Yep.
the best horseman.
Now, mind you, it's really weird to explain. Flair might be the greatest professional wrestler of all time, but he's not my favorite wrestler of all time. I understand and respect the quality that he has done and what he has done for the business and
Absolutely.
like he literally is probably the greatest professional wrestler of all time. I mean, there's guys like Hogan who is up there, Bruno, Buddy Rogers. There's so many greats that you can put on that list, but Flair is the absolute greatest of all time. And he just contributed so much and had so many great matches. I mean, Harley, Sting, he helped a young Sting get over, a Steamboat, there's just so much that he's done in his career.
He's helped so many young wrestlers, and a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
I love Flair. I have nothing negative to say about Ric Flair. I've never, not once, watched a Ric Flair match and go, I'm not entertained by this.
Anytime he wrestles, I'm intrigued. I go back and watch him versus Kerry Von Erich. I've watched so many times. It's ridiculous.
What was the last Flair match I saw? I did see the last Flair match.
I did.
Last one.
Let me tell you, I was very intrigued with that. I don't know what made me purchase that event, but I purchased it. I literally.
I don't regret it.
I don't know about that much, but there's a little bit that inside me that the match was not the
best.
His contribution to that match was not the greatest. Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett. I think Jeff Jarrett's another guy that does not get enough credit as his contributions to the wrestling industry, because he was born into the industry and is just an amazing asset to professional wrestling. A lot of people like to give him crap. But the guy and Andrade performed well too. Go ahead.
The guy booked himself to become NWA champion. I believe we're all very aware of that.
He's not the only guy that's done something like that. Let's be serious.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, Vince McMahon.
Yes, absolutely.
Vince McMahon is a former WWF champion. I get it. But to do it as many times as he did, and think about. Okay, he said, people have done it. You're absolutely right. Cannot take that away from you. Vern Gagne is another one who's done it. He gets a lot of crap for doing it. He put it on I believe he put it on his son for a while too, and he got a lot of crap for doing so. Those should he have been 19 or whatever time NWA champion? No. Is he deserving of having a few reigns under the NWA banner? Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not going to take that away from Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett's the man. I'm watching Jeff Jarrett on AW every week, and I'm laughing. His character is so over the top. It reminds me of what he was doing back in WCW, smashing everybody with a guitar.
Yep.
And that's not taken away from his wrestling. Jarrett's wrestling has always been great.
I remember the night that him and Lethal won the tag titles, I guess, from the Acclaim that one night. And obviously the decision was reversed, but the entire crowd went entirely insane. Like, this is, and I sat there and I'm just like, this is the greatest thing ever. Why? Because it's unexpected. And Jeff knows the business and knows how to rile up the fans. He was, like I said, he was born into the business.
Did you watch his match with Orange for the Mid-Atlantic / International Championship?
I did not. I have not. I hate to
I
say it. I
was
haven't tuned into AEW in a little while. I should be keeping up on it more. It's just my work schedule's been so insane. The majority of my watching wrestling is reading things online.
mhm. uh for me personally, I'll speak only for me. It's been very hit and miss. There's been some days where I'm like, oh man, this was a lot of fun, and there's days where I'm like, ooh, that's very bad. I'm not a
Yeah,
fan of this. Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal and that whole little stable have been a bright spot for me.
yeah.
They are Jay Lethal is, which I don't understand how he hasn't been in the WWE. I
I've
don't understand.
literally saw that guy from working little independents in gyms in Milford, Connecticut. Random. I'm just
Hmm.
throwing a random town that I've seen him in, to being on national TV with Ring of Honor and AEW and TNA. I've seen that guy come up from the very, very, very beginning of his career. I'm sure you probably remember him coming up in this area as well. The
Uh,
guy deserved that WWE.
yeah.
How he has never made it there, beyond me.
Doesn't.
Literally beyond me. And maybe he didn't want to go there, because
So
I don't
I
see a
heard,
reason why they would never look
yeah.
into him, because he's probably one of the greatest wrestlers to never be signed to WWE, outside of like the Great Muta as well. Look at that.
The greatest first generation superstar of all time. He has a shirt that says, I beat Ric Flair, who beat this guy, who beat this guy, who beat this guy, who beat this guy. And it's like, he's not wrong. Not
Hmm.
wrong.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
going back to your Milford days, my first memory of him was in a special group called Special K up in Ring of Honor, where
I
he was
remember.
named Hydro.
Okay,
And
I remember
I
that.
remember I'm a young 17, 18-year-old whippersnapper, and they were the cool kids. Me and my best friend Chris, who introduced me into independent wrestling. He is the Yoda to my Obi-Wan, you know, when it comes to independent wrestling. And we would watch RF videos
Mm,
of like the best of the juniors in Jersey, or stuff like that, Ring of Honor DVDs and stuff, and we just sit there and like rave out with Special K. Like whenever they would come on, we'd like do the little dances because they were like the best
the
thing going for Ring of
Ravers.
Honor.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yep.
they were
Yep.
the best thing going at the time for Ring of Honor. Like when they were on the show, I knew you were about to see some car crash bullshit, and it was all gonna be phenomenal. It was gonna be great.
Dude, it was just like those early Ring of Honor days were completely different, and it was all about the ring work. And
Hmm.
when they got TV later on, and as it got later,
Yep.
it just became another TV show. They didn't concentrate on the product, the in-ring product, as much, and um, it kind of ruined them in a way when Ring of Honor got television. I know we're kind of going
Yeah.
all over the place, but that's kind of okay with this show.
Like I, it's weird. I have a love for Ring of Honor that I don't have for a lot of wrestling products.
Okay,
Ring of Honor,
understand.
like kind of like what I showed you earlier with the Ring of Honor title. That title means a lot to me because when I became an independent fan, Ring of Honor was the first promotion that I kind of just gravitated to.
Hmm.
Guys like Low Key, Samoa Joe, CM Punk. I'm gonna give you some not so well known guys: Matt Striker, Chad Collier, Ace Steel. Jimmy Jacobs, Alex Shelley before he broke out, the Backseat Boys. You know, I can sit here for days naming the roster from like those early Ring of Honor DVDs. BJ Whitmer, who was been
Here,
with Ring of, like, you
the
know,
first time I ever saw BJ Whitman, I know I'm sorry to cut you off, but the first time I ever saw him, did you ever go to the shows that they booked in Fairfield at, was it Sacred Heart University?
both.
Yep. Yep. I went to I remember the first show I went to, it was BJ Whitmer and Matt Striker.
So you were there. Okay,
Yes.
so
Yep.
all right.
Let me
So
tell you,
let me
because
give.
I'm going to come back around and talk about the main event right after.
Yes,
But I just
yes.
remember, whatever happened to that Matt Striker, not the other Matt
Uh,
Striker, but whatever happened to that guy.
I don't know. He kind of like he was in Ring of Honor till like 2004, 2005,
I thought he was
and
great, dude, and then he
he
just disappeared.
he had the unibrow. He had the great taunt where he was going like this.
Yep.
It was great. Like he
Yeah.
was one of. I remember the Field of Honor tournament was the reason they were wrestling that
Yep.
night. The winner gets into the tournament. They went to a draw, and they were like, "You guys are both in the tournament." And we were like, "All right, this is fucking awesome." But I think around 2005, he kind of just like he got off the Ring of Honor roster because he wasn't being booked in Ring of Honor no more. And I was too young to kind of like follow where he went.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure, but he kind of just fell off.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate.
I've heard rumors of legal troubles, but I don't know how true that is, so I never really,
Yeah.
followed through
I
it.
can't
Yeah.
I can't comment because I don't know, but like
Yeah.
I would hope not.
But that show also had now an amazing match with Steve Carino and Homicide that went all over the place. And I just remember,
he smacked him so hard. Sorry, I'm cutting you off, but that memory is still very vivid.
Dude, it was
Smacked
bloody
him
as all
so
hell.
hard
Yeah.
that he lost his hearing in his eardrum.
Yep. Yeah. And do you
Like-
remember there was like he kept stabbing with a fork? There was a plastic fork. I remember
On the arm.
the kid sitting in front of me grabbed a bloody fork off the ground and wrapped it up in a napkin and just put it in his pocket. And it was just like, I was like, you're fucking disgusting.
Yeah, it's gross. I'm not touching a bloody fork. That was actually, and I'm pretty sure you know this, Samoa Joe and CM Punk's first time wrestling each other. Everybody always talks about the trilogy, but what they don't know is that there's a fourth match.
Yep.
And we got to see that, So if we're talking, okay, so we're both in the building. Try to visualize with me that the entrance is on this side in the corner. On the other side, if you walk it's let me see if I can get a visual here. Entrance. You have square one coming up, and then you take the left. And I'm sitting in that corner where Samoa Joe did the Ole Ole kick and the metal sheet bent in.
Yes.
I got to see if I can find you a clip because you'll see a young Harry.
There is video of it. It was released on, it might be on Honor Club, but, it was released eventually. So
if you watch that show and you see where Samoa Joe does the Ole Ole kick in the opposite corner of the entrance, it's me and my best friend Chris sitting right next to each other in that corner. And it was by far the coolest shit I'd ever seen at that time.
And of course, the main event was Dan Moff and Low Key, in which it ended because Low Key was stiff kicking him in the head, and Moff ended up getting a concussion. And I remember.
Go ahead.
Well, I just remember probably a few days to a week later on the old Ring of Honor message board that they used to have on the old website that they that Low Key eventually ended up having to issue an apology because he was working too stiff and gave Moff a concussion. I just remember him just like laying there like knocked out.
So if Low Key does the springboard, we're on the opposite side. So we got the bird's eye view of the whole thing. Moff goes in, he springboards, hits like the like kind of like an insecurity kick, but it was to the front of the head. And that was the end of the match. And I remember Low Key on the other side going, fuck. Like he knew he fucked up. And we were just like, oh shit. And that was just how the show abruptly ended.
Yeah.
And I still remember going, damn, that was fucking awesome. But looking back at that could have been a lot worse.
Did you attend their shows in Woodbridge when they came?
I never got to due to like transportation issues. Like I wasn't really driving at the time.
Right. You were young.
I did get
Yeah.
I did get to go to a Woodbridge show later on, or like around 2008. But
I'm trying to remember because I literally lived on the road that building is on, so I got to walk there. I was like, good, because if you ever remember the buildings that Ring of Honor were in at that time, parking was atrocious. Literally anywhere you had to go to, it was just fucking atrocious. I went to, was it the Expo Center in Hartford, and I ended up
I've done an Expo Center show.
yeah, I went to that, and I think that was the man. I'm trying to remember. I just remember Danielson being there, Kevin Steen, Daniels. Shit, I don't remember. But the Woodbridge show that I went to, I remember it was like one of CM Punk's last shows before going to the E. I remember somebody throwing a Pepsi bottle at him and him chasing through the baseball field. The kid that threw it. There's a baseball field out there. I was actually at that building yesterday because my son has basketball practice there. He threw a Pepsi bottle and Punk chased him through the building into the baseball field behind the freaking park.
Shit.
Because yeah, dude, it was fucking insane. I remember Prince Nana was there trying to prevent everybody from going out, and yeah, dude, it was fucking hilarious. And then I think he only worked like 1 or 2 Ring of Honor matches, and then he went. That's when he went to the E.
Oh, so probably during the summer. So 05.
Yeah, God, it has to be. Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think. Yeah.
Okay, I'm visualizing it. So those Fairfield shows, I ended up taking the city bus there. So the 4 bus leads you right to Sacred Heart University. So being so young, I wasn't really driving. We took the bus, and we ran up to go to the gymnasium up the steep hill. I remember being so out of breath. My brother goes, "You good?" I'm like, "Hill, what? I can't do this. I just couldn't." It was so. But man, those early shows, man, were so special.
They were different. There was something special about. Now, don't forget, they were just probably a couple years into WCW being gone.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole wrestling world was feeling this gigantic gap. Because WWE was the big dog. They finally defeated every bit of competition. You know what I mean?
Yeah. ECW had just gone out as well. So we're on the verge of that so you're losing.
Absolutely.
Out of the 3 major companies, you're losing 2 right off the bat.
But I mean, don't forget, before that he had defeated groups like the AWA, World Class, USWA, all these groups, you know what I mean?
The territories.
And then yeah, exactly. He had defeated those territories, and then there was the big 3 for a while. He literally defeated them, WCW and ECW, which was his last 2 big competitors, true competitors. And there was this whole void. Because what makes professional wrestling good is when there's more than one major company out there.
When you have options.
And it gives those companies to strive. Like a reason to strive, and it gives them a better creative output. Personal opinion. WWF has always been at its best when it's had major competition.
WCW, AEW,
Hey,
look at where they're at now. Like watching a product. I don't remember. I do remember, but like, it's weird to watch it now and not have the mindset I had, even as short as like 3 years ago.
Right.
Like watching it now, I'm like, holy hell, this storyline with Roman and the Bloodline has been some of the best TV.
The best they've done in years. Yes. Because trust me, there was times I mean, even still, there's a lot of times I sit there and watch it and I'm like, man, I can't take this. I have to shut it off. But the only thing that I've been truly paying attention to when I'm not necessarily interested in everything that's on for that 3 hours is the Bloodline story.
Yeah, that story has been completely well written, and it's so beautiful, and it ties in so many different stories, even an independent story if you think about it. Because you got Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, who are about to have a huge WrestleMania moment. We all know how that's going to end. They're going to win the titles. That's what I fully believe, and I'm going to probably shed a tear because I remember watching those old tapes, 05, IWS,
Mid-South?
IWS.
Okay.
International Wrestling Syndicate in Canada.
Oh, yep.
That's where Steen and Generico or Owens, Zayn, started. I remember seeing those VHSs, those DVDs from RF Video, and going, this is the future. Yeah. And then they come over to Combat Zone, have this amazing 4-way, and that it was off to the races. Now you got Steen and Generico up in PWG, and they explode. Now Ring of Honor's picking them up. You know, they went through the Ring of Honor, they went through all the indies, they get picked up, they do NXT, you know, and now together they're going to win the tag titles at WrestleMania. What a
the biggest
crazy
show
story.
The biggest show of the year, literally, for our industry. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. And you know, that storyline, you know, the sub storyline of the Bloodline story of Steen and Owens and the fuck is it? Sami Zayn. Sorry. Brain fart. It's the beer. You know, that sub story about their friendship as well has been very intriguing on top of the Bloodline story.
So have you seen all the promos leading up to Mania yet?
For the most part, I mean, didn't finish Raw. I didn't finish Raw from this Monday yet. I got about an hour in before I fell asleep, so I'm gonna probably watch it when we're done doing this.
There was, I don't remember anything crazy happening on Raw, but the week before, I want to say it was the week before. It was the Cody Owens Zayn promo.
Yep.
And Sami Zayn cuts this amazing promo that if you don't know the career of them two, he literally like narrates it in the best way he can, and he says this one line. And this one line is for all those guys who followed them throughout their career. He goes, in all our career, we've turned our backs to each other. We've fought side by side. We've done horrible things. What makes what I did any different from all the things you've done to me? And I go, ooh, I know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And it made me love the story more because he's like, you've literally taken everything from me at points. Going back to even in NXT.
It's like storylines for fans like us. You know what I mean? In a way.
And I remember just sitting, I'm like, the minute they win their tag titles, I'm going to cry. As a fan, I'm going to cry because it's like all this is woven in, and they're finally going to get their huge WrestleMania moment.
I'm not going to lie, because I've been watching that one thing in particular each and every week. If I'm not digging the show, I fast forward, and as soon as those guys end up on TV, the Bloodline or Owens and Zayn. But the moment those two hugged a few weeks back, I literally sat there and smiled like, you know, like I was smiling at my children. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I said, this is fucking amazing. Like it's
a payoff.
Yeah, exactly. The when Owens embraced him and hugged him huge, I was like, God damn, brother. And that's the thing about professional wrestling, dude. Professional wrestling is an emotional ride. It's a variety show, and the fans can invest. Exactly. That's the thing, bud. Does your wife watch wrestling? Let me ask you.
She watches with me. Like if I'm watching it, she'll sit down next to me. She's gone to a few shows with me, and even surprised me with tickets to a couple shows. Like she actually took me to Final Battle 2014 for Christmas.
Nice.
Which was very special for me because Alex Shelley is my favorite independent professional wrestler.
Phenomenal wrestler.
He was in New York. You know,
Never
had gotten a chance to see him live.
Yeah.
And she surprised me with tickets and took me there. That story is a whole other story for another time because there was some crazy stuff that happened. But I got to see Shelley, talk to Shelley, and add some memorabilia to my wall over here. But she goes and she supports me. She's been to all the BST shows, even the one where I couldn't go to due to COVID. She was there, you know, like she's been by my side the whole time.
My wife is not a wrestling fan. I mean, she is from her childhood. She'll sit there and watch the, A&E biographies, the documentaries.
Yep.
When it comes to attending shows, she's literally attended 2 shows with me. One, we were dating, and I brought her son to a WWE house show because at the time that I met her, her son was a huge WWE fan. So I bought him tickets and I said, hey,
that's awesome.
You want to come with us? Yeah. Okay. And then one, she went to a Northeast event. Ever since then, she'll sit there and watch documentaries with me. She'll watch the Royal Rumble with me every year.
Yeah.
But if it's not Jeff Jarrett, she doesn't care. All right.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So Jeff Jarrett, sometimes
Jeff
Coco
Jarrett's not
Beware.
smashing anyone? No,
Yeah.
I'm not watching.
She loves Jeff Jarrett. That's who she grew up watching. That's her favorite wrestler as a kid, and this Superfly as well. You know, there's very few guys that she'll sit there and say, "Oh my God, you're watching this?" Boom, I'll sit and watch. But she does not care about professional wrestling at all, and that's become a funny topic here on the show at times because wives don't care about wrestling as much as like guys. Like they don't understand it. Like they'll sit there and watch their 16 and pregnants or their or
Yes.
90 Day Fiance and all that other stuff. And I'm sitting here like, this is
does.
literally no worse than what you're watching.
No.
You know what I mean? It is a soap opera
Spot
for
on.
men. It's a soap opera for guys like us.
Yeah. So I actually had this conversation with my friend Tiz 5X the other day. And we were talking about how people like disparage wrestling. They're like, "Oh, how can you watch that fake garbage? How can you watch that? It's all predetermined." And I looked at a gentleman actually who said that to me recently, and I go, "You watch Marvel movies?" He goes, "Yeah." I was like, "You know, those are in books prior to being on the big screen, right?" He goes, "It's different." I'm like, "How?"
It's
And he
not.
couldn't explain. He couldn't explain it. And I'm like, it's literally the same thing. There's superheroes, good guys, bad guys. They beat each other up. One wins, gets a belt.
Yep.
The same thing. Thanos had a belt. It just had gems on it, and it was on his hand. Let's call a spade here. If you're going to sit here and disparage wrestling, then you better not be watching anything comic book related or any type of soap opera because I'm coming for your neck.
What's that guy? That Chris Van Vliet guy or Chris,
Yeah,
however you pronounce it? There was a
great interviewer.
He does a lot. He gets a lot of great talent on his shows.
Yeah.
But I saw a clip on TikTok about how some dude, I don't know a lot of sports media. This dude was really ripping on professional wrestling, saying it's fake. Why do you watch it? And I was like, well, do you watch a movie? That's fake. He goes, yeah, but he was like, no, we watch it. We don't necessarily know the outcome, but that's the drama. You know what I mean? That adds to the drama. It adds to the emotion. Professional wrestling is an emotion, if done correctly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just a wild ride. You know what I mean? It's such an awesome thing to be a part of. And a lot of people don't understand it. You either get it and love it, or you just don't understand it. The people
There's really no in between.
Yeah, the people that hate it just literally don't understand it.
Yeah. I have a friend, Bruce Delma, who we used to talk a lot about wrestling, like a lot. And we would sit there and have conversations for hours just about kind of like what we're doing here. And, he was like us where he understood and like, we got to see some things together and we just go, man, that was fucking great. And then like we would go to church because that's where I met him, and people would talk like, "Oh, how can you still watch that stuff?" They're guys in their underwears, or as what my pastor would say, guys in their chonies, and we'd be like, "Dude, you're sitting here watching the literal Avengers right now. How are you talking crap to us?" And it just it just blows my mind how people can be so, and it's an ignorance. I would be the first to say it's an ignorance. You sit here and watch similar things on TV, but yell at or get mad at us because we watch this. It could be worse.
It's literally the most like harmless thing on television.
Yeah,
I think watching things, and I hate, I'm going to bring up the show again, 16 and Pregnant or Teenage Mom or whatever the hell. That is way worse than watching any kind of professional wrestling, because like, what is that teaching our youth? You know what I mean? Some of these people in professional wrestling, guys, like, and I'm sure we'll bring them up, local guys that you and I are friends with and talk with, and stuff like that. It's children in our community could look up to. Guys like Lucas Chase, Flash Waller, you know what I mean? Kylon King. These are regular guys that went out there, became professional wrestling stars, And
and are
it's
killing
guys
it.
like our kids, my Jameson, and your children that they could look up to
Yeah, yeah.
and such.
Ezrin, my son, every time he goes to shows, Kylon, Kylon's one of my favorite people just in general,
He is
and
a
he's gonna give me crap if he hears that. But uh, every time Ezrin shows up at a show, the first thing Kylon goes up to him and gives him picks him up and messes with him, whatever. Same with Lucas Chase, you know, kayfabe, but like he's these guys who I've become friends with, you know, look at my son and like now they have like that relationship. Now
right.
every time my son goes to a show, he looks for them because he knows he's gonna get that attention. And that's cool. It's cool.
My 7-year-old loves Chase. I'm telling you, I remember him getting knocked out of the ring, and my Jamie was sitting there. Are you okay, Chase? Are you okay? Like, the whole time,
Yeah,
I'm like, he's not going to answer you. Like,
I mean, he probably would now. He'd be like, "No, I'm not okay. I just got hit with like something or something." He'd probably say something along those lines, but
yeah,
he won't necessarily go like, "I'm good, kid."
yeah. No, it was just
Speaking,
funny. But he loves guys like my son loves Matt DeCord. Every time he sees him, he goes up to him.
Court the man,
Matt is the man, dude.
the
Great human
man.
being. Yeah, absolutely. I love that guy. He's been on here a million times and probably going to be on here a million more. I love having that guy on. There's just certain guys that he goes up to, you know what I mean, that he absolutely loves in our
Matt
scene.
DeCourt.
My son, rather.
Oh
Sorry.
yeah.
Sorry.
I thought you were gonna name somebody else, and I'm just like, okay, I just want to make sure.
I'm having a brain
Yeah,
fart.
no,
But,
Matt DeCourt
Ichiban is one of them. My son's favorite wrestler is Ichiban.
one. That dude, that guy's on the rise,
Mm-hmm.
and he's gonna be huge. I give it a year, maybe a year and a half, where he's literally all over the world. And actually, let me rewind that. I give it maybe 6 months. Now that I think about it, 6 months, he's gonna
6
be
months.
everywhere.
You saw his
Yeah.
match with Loki at Texas
Yes,
Train?
I
Holy
was
shit.
front row for that.
Oh my god.
And
I didn't attend it, but I was able to watch it online.
so again,
There was a reason I couldn't attend, but yeah, my life is crazy. So, with family and stuff and work.
that was so going back to what we were talking about, Ring of Honor. Loki was one of the first guys who raised that Ring of Honor banner proud. That was one of my first guys that I fell in love with in Independence.
Yeah. And he was
Low-key
another guy
a-
we were talking about Jay Lethal before.
Yep.
Low key was another guy that used to work around Connecticut a lot and
Mhm.
working in the gym, the high school gyms. And
Yep.
I think he might have been in CCW, which is Connecticut Championship Wrestling at one point.
Yep.
I know he did Northeast shows. The first Northeast show I ever went to, it was him versus Xavier, if you remember him. Yeah.
All around best.
Yeah, and that is when I got introduced to the Guardian of Chaos Big Daddy for the first time as well at that show. And that kind of we would end up becoming friends months later. But Loki and Xavier, that was the first time. Now, mind you, Ring of Honor wasn't even a thought at that time. It was probably a year, maybe 2 years before. Geez, I don't even.
At 2000, 2001.
Roughly, yeah. I don't even think WCW was closed at the time.
They were.
Yeah.
I think they were doing. Oh, sorry, Cody. I didn't mean to smack you like that. I apologize. It's my dog. That's around the time like where they were doing Jersey All Pro.
Yeah.
Very, very regularly. So yeah, though Jersey All Pro is probably Ring of Honor is what pretty much like the baby of Jersey All Pro and the remnants of ECW kind of like blended into one giant promotion that ended up becoming like probably the best wrestling for a time, in the Northeast.
Yep.
And
Loki was a regular here in Connecticut for quite goddamn dude, a couple years, he's a
New York guy. It's a short drive.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, between going to, him and Xavier were here all the time. God rest, rest in peace, Xavier. Jesus, man, I couldn't believe when I heard that he had passed. The memories immediately flowed through when I heard that he had passed. Like watching him grow here in Connecticut.
I remember when they announced that they were gonna do like for WrestleMania weekend before the pandemic. It was supposed to be. It was like past versus present card for like Ring of Honor.
I remember that. Yeah, they were announcing
Yeah.
it. They were talking about it on TV, and I remember that Hurricane John Walters actually came back too,
Yes.
who was also another
Part of that the early
yeah,
days. Yeah, absolutely.
and worked around here a shit ton. Yeah,
Yeah. So it was like I want to say it was Lethal. I want to say it was Lethal, but I could. I'm almost positive
we
I'm
could
wrong.
be off. It's all right to be off sometimes. Yeah,
But when they announced him coming back, I was excited.
yeah,
I was like, oh, this really has an old school, new school feel because you're bringing
right,
back like guys like Xavier, who would like a lot of people. If you watch Ring of Honor, after like 2003, he kind of wasn't a big staple in Ring of Honor like that.
right. Yep.
So if you weren't a fan from the beginning, you don't know the impact he had on the Ring of Honor in the early stages. He was the
Right.
guy that, he held the title for 6 months, I believe,
He
and he
was
beat
one of the
Low Key.
first. He was one of the first guys to
Yeah.
hold the title. He was really early on champion.
hmm He was second champion,
Yep.
and he lost it to Samoa Joe before Samoa Joe went on to have the 2-year reign that he
Right.
had. So going back to TOS, when that match got announced, I remember going, I'm instantly buying a ticket. And, I sent a text to whom I needed to text to. Hey, who do I need to pay? Paid my ticket. I made sure that it was myself, one of my friends, Kenny, my best friend, Chris, my brother, who introduced me to professional wrestling, my friend Tiz, and my son were front row. I was like, there's no way I'm missing this.
That's amazing.
And that whole show, praise to TOS. They're an amazing company,
Dude.
and I love going to their shows. I always have a great time. But man, that card was special, very, very special.
Outside of your own BST, I think that Test of Strength puts on. I didn't go to the last Wordability show, but I was at the one before that. And I have to say that had been I think I attended 2 to 3 Test of Strength shows last year. I have to say that they're some of the best damn shows I attended in the state of Connecticut. Connecticut is hot as it is right now.
Right now, hell yeah.
I mean, Connecticut.
There's a couple of companies out here.
There is, what do we got? 5, 6 companies right now within the state of Connecticut
that are doing like really like
regular
TOS,
Test Strength, BST. There's Paradise. There's
Blitzkrieg,
Coliseum.
Then comes Coliseum.
Yep.
Oh my God, they're making.
There's Northeast, which isn't Northeast isn't necessarily a Connecticut company. Yeah, but they're headquartered.
It is a Connecticut company.
They're based out of New York.
Bethany.
Well, their main arena is Bethany, but they're based out of Newburgh, New York, which is like an hour away. So whatever. Yeah, you're right. So that's 6 companies. There's another company you said that's going to be debuting.
Fight Life is coming to Connecticut.
Right, they've been running in Rhode Island on a regular basis on like Wednesday nights or something, and they put on killer shows, dude.
I've seen. Yeah. There's a lot of killer talent on a lot of these cards. There's a lot of untapped talent.
Did you see the match that's announced? Is it for Fight Life
or the come up? What match are you talking about?
I'm talking about Janela and Ichiban.
That's
not Fight Life, or is that?
No, that is Fight Life.
Yeah.
Fight Life 10. Yeah.
Yeah. When I saw that announced, I said, "Good for Ichiban," but I said, "Holy shit, I need to be at this event." Literally.
Going back to what we were saying earlier about Ichiban being on fire, he's reaching out to places that not a lot of people in this area have really gotten to yet. Like he's now wrestling for House of Glory almost on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And I'm almost sure that he's got a big match coming up at the next show, which I'm excited as a person who
they usually stream up on Fight, right? Correct. Or at least for their bigger shows they do. Their bigger shows. Yeah. So I'll keep an eye out for that.
Again, I think that match of Low Key opened the door to him going to House of Glory, which House of Glory is one of the premier New York brands. So
That's Amazing Red. Is that the Amazing Red school?
Yes, that
Yeah.
is.
Okay. All right.
So you're under. There's a lot of people who watch House of Glory shows, kind of the same way like with Flash and Kylon being a part of Beyond and winning the Independent Tag Team Champions. Now there's a lot of people who are eyeballing those two young gentlemen, and going back a couple weeks, they were in California.
I'm just going to update right now as to what we were just referring to. It's May 24th. It's Fight Life in Milldale. It's going to be at Kinsman Brewery, which I'm getting drunk that night. It's going to be Joey Janela and Ichiban. So yes, it is. That is. We were correct on that match, but it was May 24th. I urge everybody to get out there because this Fight Life puts on phenomenal damn shows. They usually run in Rhode Island outside of, I believe it's a brewery in there, and it's in a tiny ass room. Get your tickets now because literally this is going to be this show is going to be a banger. Like top to bottom, they put on phenomenal shows if you haven't seen them before.
As a guy, as a person with BST, I encourage everybody to just support independent wrestling. Just support it.
Key tag here.
In any way, shape, or form. If you can get to a TOS show, go to a TOS show. If you can go to a PAPW show, go to PAPW. If you can go to Fight Life in Milldale, go to Fight Life. Go to Blitzkrieg. Support these independent guys. If these are your guys, support them where they go. I could not say that louder,
Yeah, we were speaking just moments ago that Connecticut is on fire. I don't think I've ever witnessed a time where Connecticut has been so
a
hot.
big hotbed. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's literally everybody from here, everybody's going out elsewhere. It's just insane right now. There's literally shows every weekend. There's a
crop of talent in this area that they're just one big break and it just explodes.
Well, I'm telling you,
explode.
You know who those guys are right now, and this current crop. It's going to be like we probably spoke, and I was speaking last night. I was talking to Nutrius X, okay, and we were talking about Lucas, and he said that dude, he gives Chase literally 6 months, less than a year before he probably going to end up on national television or with a contract. And I'm not going to sit there and argue with that because I'm going to sit there like how it hasn't happened yet. Beyond me, but I'm going to tell you something because Chase is probably, and I know I sing his praises all the time. People laugh at me because I sing his praises all the time. That dude is fucking gold. And I mean, like, and when that guy is on that television spot and when he's out there, I'm going to be, it's nothing but pride. I'm going to be very proud of that guy out there because he worked his ass off the last 3 or so years. And he literally is just puts in the work. He has the knowledge. Yeah, I mean, literally sat there and talked wrestling history with him. Okay,
he's a full package.
Yeah, exactly. He knows what he's doing, and I just think it's going to be phenomenal when he gets signed. It's just a matter of time. But we also have guys like we just mentioned: Flash, Kylon, Ichiban, and I'm sure I'm missing some names. And no offense to anybody that I'm missing, but Connecticut's such a hotbed and has so many great professional. The Haven, excuse me, I'm sorry. How can I forget those guys? Those guys are phenomenal wrestlers as well.
The Haven, Lucas Chase, bias aside, obviously, Lucas Chase has. If you get a chance, go back to the earlier days of BST even and watch the evolution over the last 3 years of Lucas Chase. There's a reason he is the BST champion. There's a reason he is a former TOS tag team champion. There's a reason he's won the RWA championship, the first person to do so. There's a reason he is a former PAPW Intercontinental champion, former Coliseum Pro heavyweight champion. There is a reason that these companies are, that he's winning these titles. There is a reason. It's not because he's, going back and politicking. He's that good.
Yes, 100%.
He's that good.
Yes.
And, going back, Flash, look at his evolution over the last 3 years through PAPW, Ichiban, Kylon, the Haven. Um, oh my
Flash
God,
is a different wrestler than he was when I very first saw him, as is Chase, but I'll get into both of them.
yeah,
Uh, Flash has grown. I'm kind of scared for the guy because of the risk that he takes, I,
yeah.
but good for him that he's getting out there and doing all the stuff he's put in the work.
Dude, I got to see his match with Leo Rush. I was
You
there.
attended that live? I watched it
I
on
attended
TV.
that live.
Yeah.
I attended
Okay.
that live. It was beautiful.
I
It was
clipped it
beautiful.
and put some clips online. It was a phenomenal match. And then was it a week later? Him and Kylon wrestled. Leo and
Like
Kylon wrestled.
it's like
2
2 or
weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
But
Can't
knowing
be more proud of those kids that
no,
Yeah.
no, you can't. Again, going back to kind of like what I said about Justin, Flash was on that first BST card.
Yeah.
Justin Waller was on that first BST card, and I remember this, skinny little kid, with red, bell bottom looking tights and,
I remember
uh,
those.
yeah, okay, and I'm sorry if he hears this, I apologize, but like, and it may sound cheesy, but seeing these young guys and seeing their growth from what they were to where they're at now is, I feel like I guess a proud parent, like an uncle, I guess.
Yep.
It's just that feeling of pride, like wow, like these kids who I've seen grow up are now doing spectacular, phenomenal things.
Yeah.
Like I got to see him and Leo, and then I got to see him wrestle for GCW when they did the Providence show at Aura.
I saw
He
one of
wrestled.
the match where he
Go
came
ahead.
in like a 6-way or something with Tony, and I think
Yes,
he took the fall to Tony Deppen, if I remember correctly. Is that the one?
yes, that was
Yeah,
at Aura.
that was his
Okay,
debut, correct? For
it wasn't the debut. I
no?
believe the debut was a couple months prior to that.
Okay.
So he had wrestled. I think it was like him, Manders, Chris Hamrick, Deppen, Mathers, who's another young guy, but he's out of
That
like the New
that dude's
Jersey
another
area.
great, another great
Yeah,
guy. That's
in the
he's
Northeast area.
you guys have hosted him as well,
Yeah,
correct?
and
Yeah,
I can't wait to bring him back. Like
yeah,
he's another young guy who I think give it about a year or so, and he's gonna. I mean, he's already all over the world with GCW, but
yeah.
the way he's going to explode onto the scene in about a year is going to be completely. There's a lot of talent in this Northeast area. I could talk for hours. We
Yeah.
can talk for hours about the Northeast as a whole. Hotbed.
Northeast is New England has always been one of the greatest areas of professional wrestling, literally
Absolutely.
for
Hmm.
decades upon decades. Obviously there's been some lulls here and there over the
Of
years.
course.
But right now, the last probably year since we bounced back from the pandemic,
Hmm.
there's some great companies in New England. There's some great companies based in Connecticut, our home
Yeah.
area.
Yep.
And there's a lot of really great professional wrestling, and New England is just a hotbed right now. And I mean, I've always been very proud and very into the New England scene. It's just like
Yeah.
this particular era that we're in.
It reminds me of the old ROH era.
It reminds me of like, remember when the WWE was hot during the Attitude Era and it was like nobody wanted anything else. It's just like, it's that, not that the Attitude Era wasn't my favorite. I'll just tell you that. But it's like, for people that are into the Attitude Era so much, that's what this is like. It's just that intense, I guess you could say.
So I can compare the wrestling out here now to how it was, I would say 2000 to 2003 in the Philly, New York area. So you got like Combat Zone, Jersey All Pro, Ring of Honor, I'm trying to think of what other promotions like Mid South, IWS
IWA.
Mid South.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, IWA, IWA Mid South. Like those those companies were all, premier companies to work for, and you had some of the
Chikara
young
as
talent.
well.
Yeah. Oh my God, how could I forget Chikara?
Yeah. Yep.
Chikara was.
It was one of the best companies to work for, and
Man,
I miss that company so much. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what it was about that company that made it so special? was how silly some of the things were. But like at the same time, you had some of the best wrestlers come through there and wrestle. Like
I think it was
it was like
literally
a
the quality of the wrestling.
yes,
It was, and that's what it is about me. Comedy could bother me a
yep,
lot at times.
hmm
If anybody knows me and knows what I prefer when it comes to professional wrestling, comedy will drive me crazy. Same as death matches drive me even more insane.
yep,
But as long as it's quality professional wrestling, sometimes it'll just that stupid shit will bypass. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I'll just be able to get over it. Shikara was able to put on a good, very good product with their in-ring skills while having some goofy kind of
yep,
comic booky type
yep.
stuff, but it was
Mm,
nothing. It reminded me of maybe like a Japanese independent, if you will.
yes,
You know what I mean?
yes. So you got teams like Los Ice Creams. You have a wrestler called Dragon, which is literally a guy in a dragon costume. You
Right.
had the guys like the Ophidian Portal, which are two guys who came from Egypt, who, and you got guys like Claudio Castagnoli, Chris Hero, Mike Quackenbush, even though that name does get a little bit of like
You
weird
know,
reactions,
I'm
but
going to. I know the same way. Well, maybe not just the same way as Benoit, but it definitely in a stomach turning
similar,
way.
yeah.
Mike has always been pretty decent of a human being to me. I have a feeling that I don't know. I think there's a lot of controversy that surrounds his name that might not necessarily be his fault. I could be wrong on that, but
We
for the sake of
we
this
don't know,
podcast,
you know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
But
I
like
mean, let
he
me
was
just
one
say
of
that
those
there's always
guys.
two sides to every
Yep,
story. I'm just going to say that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Guys like Jigsaw, Hollow Wicked, who doesn't get as much love as
Dude,
I feel like they deserve.
I was just thinking of that guy, Hollow Wicked, because
Yeah,
he was another guy. Remember, we were just talking about Jay Lethal and Low Key
coming
working
through
this area.
Connecticut. Yep.
Hollow Wicked was from this area, and he would always come out there. He dressed up like he was one of the
Uh-huh.
Misfits, the rock
Yep.
band, the Misfits,
Yep.
and he just always came out there. And I saw him work all these independent days, whether it was
Yep.
NAWF, if you remember the NA,
I don't
was
remember
it NAWF?
NAWF.
NAWF. It was a school based out of Milford who ran
Hmm.
shows. I'm trying to remember, is it
Ooh.
NAWF or NAWA? NAWF, I believe. New whatever. I don't remember what it stood for. I remember Fred Yale was a promoter slash instructor there.
Okay.
And I remember there was a guy named John Brooks. Do you remember John Brooks? Nope.
No.
Okay. He was his number one student. I believe Dave Cole came out of that school. You got to remember
Dave Cole.
Dave Cole, Jay Busta, who Randy
My
on. Yeah.
Dave Cole. You're to make sure we got this right. Dave Cole.
I think there's only one, if I'm not
The psychedelic warrior.
same guy.
That is
Yep. He was a
okay.
different guy. He went from being like a guy coming out just wrestling with no personality to one of the Canadian superstars with Jay Busta to the psychedelic guy that you're referring to. Yep.
So, Dave Cole, I have a special love for Dave Cole. Let me start off with that.
A great wrestler, dude.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal wrestler. I got to see Dave Cole for the first time. I don't know if you remember these. There was this company called Wrestle Jam.
I remember Wrestle Jam. The last show that I went to from them,
East Haven?
No, it was Jesus. It was like in the middle of nowhere maybe in Wallingford.
The church?
Yes. Yes,
was
it was
there.
in the middle of a church. And I remember Sarah Del Rey was there, and that's all I remember. Sorry for that particular show, but I remember attending them in Hamden, Connecticut, a couple times. I could go to the Hamden story pretty soon if you want to talk about the church show first.
They're going back to the church. I'm trying to remember. Okay, so there was I want to say there was a church show.
And it definitely was because it was like in the middle of nowhere, kind of driving down this
up a hill.
It was kind of like this regular suburban area. Then there was just a church. That's it.
Were the ants on that card?
I really have very little memory outside of Sarah Del Rey being on that show. Maybe if
we're gonna have to discuss this later.
Yeah,
I went to the last few of them before they finally
I think I missed the last couple, but yeah, I definitely attended more than a few. But yeah.
So the first time I see Dave Cole, I want to say it's in Meriden at the
Okay.
YMCA.
Okay.
And the main event of that show was JT Dunn and Chris Sabin.
That is really early on for JT Dunn then.
It was right in the height of the Juicy Product
Okay.
rise.
Yeah.
So they're, they got their match, whatever, but it was a 6-man. It was Chikara versus like the Northeast Legends or whatever. And it was like AJ Cruz, Dave Cole, and Mikaze, I think, were the three that are probably the Northeast. And I remember them wrapping off of Mercedes KV 8x10. I remember that much. Sasha Banks.
Yep.
Before,
Yep.
yeah. So like I remember that, but that was the first time I saw Dave Cole. I didn't really talk to him then. I had seen him then later, a couple years later, at a Beyond show. No, lying. It was a CCW show in Stratford.
Okay, that's when they moved out of West Haven, because on CCW, the first like bunch of shows were in West Haven in the Masonic Temple or something to that effect.
I'm almost positive it's CCW, and I believe it's Johnny Gargano and Dunn in the semi-main, or something like that.
Yep.
But Dave Cole is there, and he's selling his custom pops because he does like a lot of artwork.
Yeah. You follow him on Instagram. You follow him on not Instagram, Twitter. He posts a lot of his artwork.
So I'll just pull the one that I bought because I still have it to this day. He did this Samoa Joe.
Oh, sick!
Right, beautiful. I was like, I gotta have it. I was really big on my pop collection at the time. So, we talk and we hit it off, and then I seen him again at Beyond, and we talked some more. And, we ended up he ended up becoming like a really cool friend of mine for a while. And this is right before I even, became a part of the business. He lived right here in Bridgeport, and there'd be times where I'll drive through and I'll see him and we'll just talk. And, great guy. Moved out to Denver and I miss him dearly, but he came back recently for a Beyond show. And I made sure to go up there and see him. And we talked for a good while, man. Good guy, great guy.
Yeah.
We'll forever sing his praises.
Dude, he was great, and I liked when he was teaming with Jay Busta as the Canadian Superstars. Wrestle Jam, dude, put on some great shows. I don't know if you remember their shows in Hamden. I remember they put on a couple there. There was one. I remember Claudio was there, and Eddie Kingston was there. Quackenbush. I just remember it was like a 6-man main event. I'd have to really research the main event because I did find it online somewhat recently. And my family's always been Boston Red Sox fans growing up. I know everybody's a Yankees fan, God forbid that. But I just remember Eddie Kingston literally looking at my son who's wearing a Red Sox hat. This is my oldest son. He's 16 now. He said, "Hey kid, the Red Sox suck." And the entire place went fucking crazy. Literally just talking shit to Eddie Kingston, like, leave the kid alone, and all that stuff, dude. And that's, to me, is what's special about professional wrestling.
Yeah, those little interactions.
Moments like that. Yeah.
Little interactions. I think my first Wrestle Jam was that Meriden one. That was like 2014, maybe 2015. Yeah. I think that was the first one I went to. I never got to see the Claudio days, but I know how Hollow Wicked was like their grand champion for like a while.
Yeah,
for a very long while. And Wrestle Jam was put on some really cool cards, really different cards too. Because even the last one that they did in East Haven, that I remember, it was like Jonathan Gresham was on it. Davey Boy Smith Jr. was on it. Like, they had some pretty big names. Yeah. I was very Huckabee was on it. I remember Huckabee being on it. Another PAPW standout that was on there, Richard Holiday. That was
national TV star right now.
Wrestle Jam was the first time I laid eyes on this guy.
Yeah. A great performer, man. I mean, he's a great wrestler.
Yeah. If I'm being honest, the first time I saw him, I was like, this guy is never going to make it. And you know what? He made me eat my goddamn words.
I'll tell you, with
the first one to say it.
I've gone back and watched some of his earliest videos, like matches. You know what I mean, through Paradise Alley and stuff. I'm like, there's something about this guy. Necessarily, I was just like, it's amazing to see his growth. because
Yeah.
I've gotten to see him through MLW and his growth through Paradise Alley that he really developed into something special.
The
Literally
AirPod
developed.
God.
There you go.
Like he took something as little as this and made it into like a whole catchphrase, which is great. But I remember seeing, I thought like when I first saw him, it was gonna be like, oh, it's just gonna be like this company's big guy. You know what I'm saying? Like he's the
Right.
chosen one for this company, and that was cool. But it wasn't necessarily for me. I also didn't really like see his personality until later on.
Yeah.
That's when I started really like, oh, I like this Holiday guy. He's
It probably
really fucking
took
good.
some time for him to
Yeah,
develop. You know what I mean? As it does in the world of professional wrestling.
absolutely. I remember Evolve had a double shot with PAPW at a gym in East Haven, and Holiday was on the card along with Matthias. I remember those two. Those are the two that like stuck out for me the most. And I remember like, oh, these like, at that point I'm like, oh, these guys are gonna be something pretty soon. And they were like almost like neck and neck as far as like where the trajectory of their careers were going. And then like Richard Holiday just ended up blowing up right after that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it was cool to see.
I think it's great, dude. Like to see such guys like that. You know what I mean? We always talk. We were talking earlier. It's phenomenal to see. Like sometimes you mean like, man, these guys are. They might not do something, but holy shit! Now look at this. They're on TV. Or see the
Yeah,
development of their character.
absolutely. Alec Price. Alec Price is another one of those guys where like you see him throughout the Indies. He wrestled throughout all throughout Connecticut and whatever. He's doing his Beyond Wrestling. He's getting a lot of momentum in Beyond Wrestling. All of a sudden, he's in MLW, doing some cool things. Main event out of New York. Uh, Jay Lyon and Midas Black.
Yes,
House of Glory, former House of Glory tag team champions. Another team that they're just on a hot streak. Now they're in MLW. Good for them. People. It's cool to see people finally get their just desserts. You know what I'm saying? Like what they deserve.
these guys work their asses off. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Professional
absolutely.
wrestling is no joke. You know what I mean? You got
No,
to put in the
it's
work.
not.
But guys like Holiday and the guys that we were talking about earlier, Miracle Generation, I guess we can
Hmm.
refer to them as. They put in the work and able to get to where they are. And there's only
Absolutely.
bigger things coming.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you
I
mind if
can't wait.
we go ahead?
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I want you to finish, and then I'm gonna
Uh,
switch
it,
gears.
it, it's cool to see. It's cool to see, and I honestly I can't wait till I turn on my TV one day and I see Dustin Waller doing his Kobe splash, and Kylon hitting knees and Ichiban just entertaining the world. I cannot wait for those days. Same with Lucas Chase. Cannot wait for that dude to be talking so much smack that people hate him on TV.
I could see, a lot of those guys going to the Big E,
Hmm.
or maybe even NXT. Some of them because of the style, not necessarily because of how good or not the lack of being good. It's just because of the certain style that they work. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? NXT has a certain style, okay,
Yes.
as compared to the main roster.
Yep.
So it's just one of those things. I could picture all the guys that you just mentioned
Hmm.
up there at some point in or AEW, and
Yeah.
I'm interested in seeing somebody like Lucas or even Kylon or even Ichiban doing a tour of Japan. You know what I mean? Because
Definitely.
Ichiban,
Definitely.
in my personal opinion, out of the three that I just mentioned, and this is no offense to Chase, but Ichiban and Kylon, I think that Kylon really uses an influence from that
Hmm.
style. If you think about it,
Yeah. I can see it. I definitely see it. Ichiban. I, I, Ichiban would do great in Japan.
yeah,
He'd be amazing in the Super Juniors tournament, given the right time and the right. I also see him going to Mexico. I could see him down to CMML or AAA.
dude, you got a
Having some.
point there. Yeah, yeah.
I could see him doing a lot of crazy stuff down there. It's gonna be cool to see where he goes next.
The guy, were you don't go attend the have you? Did you attend any of the Tough and Talented shows?
I've been to one so far.
So you weren't at the
And,
last one, I'm guessing that which was
no,
just
I
the
didn't.
last.
The last few weeks have been like really
It's
uh
cool. You're a dad. I get
exciting.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like with the birth of the baby, I kind of like I missed the last TOS show, which was like I had I had literally text Alex the night before. I was like, "Listen, I'm going to be there unless this girl appears." And that night, she showed up. I was like,
Well,
"No,
congratulations to you and
yeah,
your
no,
wife. I'm happy for you guys.
thanks, man.
I might not comment as much as I probably should on Facebook posts and stuff like that, but I did comment when you did post pictures
Yeah,
of the baby. I did say that,
yeah,
but I don't
no,
necessarily comment. But I want to congratulate you, man, because
thanks,
it's an
man.
amazing thing having a child. I've got
Oh man,
too many of
it's a
my own, but you know,
it's a blessing. I
it
mean,
is.
my princess doesn't let me sleep at night sometimes, but
That'll
that comes with
change.
the territory. Yeah.
That'll change.
Uh,
They get you have a child already, so
mhm,
it goes on. After a few months you'll be able to sleep, and
yeah.
you'll be
I
good.
mean, I'm happy because I have the boy already who is literally my mini me, and now I have the girl. I have the set. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm happy. I love both. They're both healthy, beautiful children. I'm blessed. Can't really be mad at life right now.
And you bring your son to the show, so I
Yeah,
mean,
I do.
you know.
Can we touch on that first?
Oh,
Like
of
my
course.
son, my son is my son is me. If I had uh everything I could possibly think of as a kid,
Yeah.
and things were different. Things were different before as they are now. You had to necessarily go to a store to actually purchase these things. Now with internet and everything, it's not necessarily a necessity where you have to go out and grab stuff.
Right.
So it's easier to purchase things for the kid, and I try and I work really hard to give them the best you know that life can give me. I want to give him more than what I had.
Right.
So if I couldn't have all these toys as a kid, I want to make sure he does, so he knows what it feels like to have those moments with the toys. If you look at his setup, dude, I will send you a picture. He has a whole setup in his room, a whole setup, and it is amazing to see because he is literally me at that age. He watches wrestling all the time. He talks to me about wrestling all the time. He goes, "Dad, did you see this? Dad, did you see that?" And of course, me being me, I'm like, "Yeah, I've already saw that already, Ezra." But he's just like, "Dad, but did you see this?" And it's cool. I
That's amazing.
remember the first memory. He's about four-ish when the cruiserweight. Yeah, four because it was the cruiserweight classic. It was Kota Ibushi, Cedric Alexander. We're watching it. We're in our room and he's invested. When I tell
That's
you
amazing.
this is his first wrestling match that he's seeing, and he's like this. He's like really in the camera, like he's really watching it. And he's like the match is over, and he starts crying. I'm like, why are you crying? Because the one I wanted lost.
He's invested.
And I was like, yeet, he's hooked.
You
And it
get
is
it. He gets it. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Dude, I just sit down with this kid and we're in the age of the internet. We us smart, people who can manage know things sometimes before they even happen. Whatever.
I mean,
You know,
we read certain things, websites, etc. You know what I mean? Yeah,
bingo.
absolutely.
He sits there and he goes, "I bet you this is gonna happen," and then it happens. And I'm like, "All right, you're on your phone too much. Get off the phone. Get off your phone." But it's cool to see. It's super cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. I mean, one of my son's favorites, like I said, was Ichiban. Flying Eye is another one of his favorites. He doesn't, and I got to tell you, he's completely, every time he sees Flying Eye, he gives him the too sweet. You know what I mean?
Flying Eye's
So
another one, man. Give him a little bit of time, and that dude's gonna do some cool stuff, man.
I think for a guy that's been in the business as long as he has, the dude has got it.
Yeah,
Literally, he's been in it probably over a year, maybe what's it, 2 years, maybe. The dude,
yeah,
his charisma level is off the charts. Good.
absolutely. Yeah, I went to Tetsu a couple weeks ago. Tetsu Pro.
Okay. Yep.
That's another promotion.
That's
on
right.
the rise.
That's one we
Yes,
need
that
to
Super
to
Bowl is
to talk
another
about.
one.
Yep.
And he was in the opening three-way, but his crowd interaction, the way he worked with the crowd and the way he did in the match, it all was very, very well done for a guy with not that much time, in the ring. Like we said, he's only been what, 1, 2 years,
Yeah.
and you would think he's been part of rings for years, like more than the one or two that we're talking about. The dude knows how to maneuver and work the crowd, and I love that about him.
He yeah, dude, it's just amazing, dude. His crowd interaction, he's the perfect heel. But he
Yes,
gets over. He gets
yeah.
over. He's got
You know
fans
why?
cheering him because it's his charisma, dude. It's his personality.
I wouldn't. Okay, so yes, it is those things, but there's one key thing that allows people to go, "This guy's a fucking man. He's relatable.
Yes,
He's
100%.
absolutely
100%.
relatable.
And we got Edric Cash with him, who's also
Relatable.
100%. He's got the charisma. He's got the skill of the gab. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So the
yeah.
gift of
So
gab.
they work well together.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I love seeing them on shows together.
And he's believable.
Yeah.
He's
And
believable.
I got to see him at his Fly Nice Northeast debut, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't have been prouder, dude. When I
Yeah.
saw him, I literally got a text message from him because I was wearing my New Japan hoodie. He's like, New Japan hoodie. Nice New Japan hoodie. I'm like looking around. I'm like, where the fuck is this guy? Like, what are you doing? Like, I thought maybe he was hanging out or sitting in the chairs or somewhere. And I'm like looking for him. Literally, I think it was the second match. All of a sudden, this music hits and he comes out. I was like, oh, God, man, I'm so fucking proud of this
Yeah.
dude. Like, seriously. He worked with Chase that night.
Yeah. He was in I think it was like a 6-man. And
yeah, he got annihilated. So, either way,
like
he's paying his dues, man. He's getting there.
Bingo. And that's it. He's paying his dues. He's doing what he has to do to get to where he needs to get. And good for him, man. Like you said,
Yeah.
proud that he got
absolutely.
his chance to be in some type of spotlight for a really big company out here. Granted, they're like a Connecticut company.
Probably the biggest in the Northeast, to be honest with you.
They're no slouches.
No, they don't take just anybody. They don't take
No.
just anybody. The fact that he came out there, I'm like, damn, dude. I literally almost shed a tear because I'm like, man, I'm so proud of this guy because I've been there watching him since the very, very, very beginning.
Him, Brad Baylor is another one of those guys.
Dude.
Yep.
Brad Baylor. Literally, I interviewed him and like 3 days later, he changed his damn name. Let's just say that. Okay. Anyways, but I won't throw that towards him. But he's another one, dude. He's got the charisma.
He's got the one to watch.
He's got the look. Okay. Mm-hmm. Connecticut is no joke right now, dude. I'm telling you, Connecticut is no joke. This scene is tearing it up. And these guys out of this area are fucking stars waiting to burst. I'm telling you. Baylor's definitely one. Baylor is definitely another one on that list.
So, when speaking of Baylor, let's talk about BST's Elevate.
Yeah, dude, we got to go through that because I was going to say first I want to know a little bit about the history of BST before we get into the show because I don't know a lot about the entire history. I know that you guys started booking events randomly at the Acoustic Cafe, if I remember correctly. Now, that's a venue I have attended for music shows, and I was not able to attend those earliest shows. It wasn't until you guys moved over to the Y that I attended a bunch of shows. So let's talk about the history in the beginning of and how you got involved into BST, and then we'll definitely get to Elevate soon.
So how do I start this? They started. So I wasn't part of the initial inception of BST. I'll start off with that. I went into BST as a fan, just like probably everybody else. There was a wrestling card that Manny Sierra, my broadcast partner, was hosting, and he was like, "Hey, there's this show in Black Rock. Come through and see your boy, and we'll talk after." And I was like, "Yeah, of course, anything for you, Manny. You're one. Manny's one of my best friends. So I go to the show, and me and Chris, my brother, are having we're having a fun time. It was really just a lot of fun. And I they were supposed to do a follow-up show, and then the pandemic happened. Manny introduces me to a couple gentlemen, and he goes, "Hey, this is my friend Harry. He knows wrestling. I think he'd be a great fit for the company." And me and a couple gentlemen have a conversation, and he goes, "All right, I like what I see. What do you want to come in and be a commentator?" Again, I'm just a fan at this point. I don't think I'm ever going to be a part of this, but it's always been a dream in some way, shape, or form to do this. Excuse me. And I'm just like, yeah, hell yeah, fuck yeah, let's do this. So I'm excited. We're at the acoustic, and because of the pandemic and the acoustic being so small, um, I don't know if I think my thing just passed. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
My headphone just died, so we're gonna do this.
That's okay.
Um, we're at the acoustic, and we're running a 10x10 ring. Plexiglass literally surrounds the 10x10, and
Oh my god.
there's like 20 people in the venue. Like, we can't have any more. And we're telling decent stories, and we have some real good guys who are on the come up, guys who have been a part of like other companies who are coming in. We have a good crop of dudes, and we're putting on some good shows, and we're telling some really good stories, especially Dustin versus Lucas was one of our first premiere stories that we were telling. Even in our early inceptions, we had partnerships with TOS. And Dan the Man and Karen Bam Bam were fighting over the Tesla Strength Championship. So like we have some really good, credible people coming on our cards, and we're just trying to do something during this crazy time. It's the pandemic, and we run a couple shows, we run a tournament, and that all leads to our big show at behind the acoustic, which is if I'm not mistaken. Oh my God, what was the name of the first show? It wasn't Road to Success. Park City Showdown.
Yep.
Right? So we go into the first Park City Showdown, and it's Lucas Chase versus Dustin Waller in an Iron Man match. That's the main event.
I watched that online. Yeah.
It was one of the most fun days of my life, both professionally and as a fan. I got to call Amazing Wrestling that whole night, and we had a really good card the whole way through. Guys like Kylon King were on that card. Guys like Lou Jacobs who were on that card. We had The Haven, Lucas Chase. You had Matt Awesome. A couple Big Jim Anderson. Like we had some really really great. Rest in peace, Big Jim. We had some really cool dudes.
I love that guy. I miss that guy so much, dude. Like, I'm sorry. We've mentioned his name a couple different times, and I hate to cut you off, but
hey,
I miss that guy so much, dude. He was such a great fucking dude, and he was always a fun person to talk to. We've always talked, literally, I don't think we've really ever talked much wrestling. We talked our mutual love of punk rock music every time we spoke,
Jim is an imposing character. He's a big, muscular dude, And I remember, like, the first show at the acoustic, I go to Big Jim, and I remember this. I mixed up his name during commentary. Because I didn't know a lot of these guys,
right?
But I have to do a job, and after the show was over, I went up to him and I was like, "Listen, I apologize if I messed up the names, whatever." And he was just like, "Hey, man, we've all been there before. It's okay." And ever since then, he became like the big teddy bear for me. He always embraced me as I was one of them from the jump. And I can say that was what Big Jim was as a person. He was just a very embracing, positive person from what I remember. and
Yeah.
I will never. I remember the conversation I had the day before he passed, and it was nuts because we had the show at the Maya Mog, and him and Dustin had literally torn down the house. Literally tore down the house.
That's that small room, right? If I remember
Yes.
correctly, the yacht house.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, I saw that online. Yep.
They tear it up, man. Great street fight type match. And we go to the back and we're talking, and he says some stuff to me, and I go, as long as you know as long as we're here, you're with us. And I want you to remember that what you just did today was fucking phenomenal. Don't doubt your ability to do this. Because at the time, I believe he was hurting. Like his back was kind of like,
I think that he was out for a little while and he had to have a
yeah,
surgery of some sort. Yeah, and I remember that when he landed in the hospital.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, we had that conversation, and 2 days later, I believe, unfortunately, we got the news.
I was in the middle of recording an episode with Big Daddy and Tommy Saban, and Big Daddy's phone was blowing up during the episode. And finally, he said, "I'll call you back." It's like, "I'll jump back on in a minute." And he came back, and unfortunately, he spilled the news. And I just remember, like, we only went a few more minutes and just cut the episode there. You know what I mean? It was heart-wrenching news at the time. He was such a good fella.
I was on my way to work, and I had read a status, won't say from who, and I texted Kevin, which is one of my partners in this, and I asked him, I was like, what I'm reading, is it true? And he kind of was just like, unfortunately, yeah, this is what's going on. Whatever. I don't know exactly like what led to it, but
I don't know what. Yeah.
I remember just sitting at the parking lot. I was working at orthopedic specialty group at the time. And I remember just sitting in the parking lot and just kind of like just being numb. I just felt numb. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I just saw this guy. Like, we just had a talk.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
I had seen him really previously before that, and it's one of those things where he was doing the mask gimmick at the time.
Yeah, that was right.
And I just remember I said, dude, like, we all know it's you, kind of a thing. You know what I mean? We all know Jim is Jim.
At the time, he was doing stuff with PAP. He had just come back from injury. He was doing stuff with PAPW.
Yeah.
And he was working with Lucas Chase.
Chase and Gibbs were working as kind of like a what do they call it? A group, whatever you want to call it. Faction.
Stable, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were working as a group. So like I was around him a lot at the time. Obviously with the BST and then going up to PIPW. Actually, I'm gonna give you a big Jim memory that will always stay near and dear to my heart. I go to PIPW and there's like, I go in, I'm nowhere, not anything crazy. I'm not even anything crazy now, but like I literally maybe have called maybe 3 shows at this point, 3-4 shows. So I go into PAPW. I just go in to see a couple of my friends, do some wrestles and just have a good night. My son's with me. And there's you've been to the PAPW facility.
Many times, yeah.
In front of the bathrooms was a row of chairs. And there was a gentleman who was sitting, and it's open chair, gentleman, open chair. So I'm coming in and I'm talking to the guy, and the guy's kind of like being kind of like a dick. I think that's the best way I can describe it as. And Jim sees me, comes right up to me, gives me a big hug, says hi to Ezrin, and looks at the gentleman. He goes, "Hey man, I need you to move over so my friends can sit here." And the guy looked at him and was like, "Okay." And he moved right over, and me and Ezrin were like front row for the PAPW card. And Ezrin had a blast that day. It was like his first time seeing like Waves and Curls, who were like a very fun like tag team to watch. And they did the whole thing, and Ezrin was like under it. So he had such a cool experience.
And now they're one of the biggest tag teams in the Northeastern United States. How we didn't mention them earlier, beyond me.
Absolutely. They're another team that once Trayvon gets, comes back from injury, they're probably going to actually, once he comes back, I know they're going to do crazy stuff because we saw them in Milford at the brewery.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
And the Road Warrior pop that those boys got that night. You were there with me. It
Yes.
was nuts. That was a fun card.
Yes, that was a fun card. I went to the year before and I thought it was phenomenal. I went to this year, phenomenal. That dude that books those shows,
Yep.
I don't know what he's got going on. He gets the top independent talent in the Northeast. He brings in guys like Zicky Dice and Caleb Conley and Joey Janela was at the last show.
Yeah.
Scotty Tuhati. I mean, this guy's booking the top fucking talent.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm literally, and it's in a fucking brewery, so there's beer. So I'm happy as both ways. Professional wrestling and beer are my two favorite things in life.
We got to chill a lot that night, and
We did. Q was ref for that, and anytime that guy pops up, it's gonna be a fun night.
Yep.
That dude, another dude that's out there killing it. Q, who's gonna be a guest by the way in the month of April. So keep your eyes out, folks, for that episode because
Uncle Q is the man. He refed my gender reveal. That dude has a special place in my heart.
He loves professional wrestling. I've literally in the middle of shows sat there and have conversations with him about the history of professional wrestling. Huge NWA fan in the history of NWA, by the way. So the guy's amazing. Got a chance to work with him in Bay State. Got a chance to work with him in Paradise Alley numerous times. Great guy, dude. You're fucking great guy.
Dude's a great dude with a great heart, and his love for wrestling and his love for the kids of wrestling, like the young guys.
Yeah,
it's cool to see. It's cool to see.
Yeah, and it's always good to see him. And like I said, I'm looking forward to conversing with him for this podcast because anytime I speak with him at a show, we just have amazing conversations about wrestling and just cool dude. And back to those brewery shows. I guess they're part of the trivia nights. I'm hoping that there's going to be another one this year. The guy, when I spoke to him last time, said that he's going to continue to do them.
Hey, dude, if you hear about it first, you need to send me a message. We should make that a tradition. From here
there you go. There you go.
Go together.
I will be there. I mean, if it's happening, I'm going to be there. So don't even just plan on meeting me there. That's all I'm saying. Don't just show up.
That's fine with me.
But I think there's another. I think that we planned on going to the last interspecies show. Was at Beer Axe in East Haven. They're coming back to another one. Jesus Christ.
That's the 15th. So if I don't go to NEW, I'm 90% probably going to be at the Beer Axe.
All right, hit me up. Shoot me a text. But yeah,
I got you.
So let's talk a little bit more regarding BST.
Now we lead off at Park City Showdown. Dustin Waller's our new champion. Amazing Iron Man. Told a fun story. I lost my voice after that show because of I've called some shows and there's been times where I can tell even with myself, like I'm watching it and I'm not as invested for some reason or the other because I'm probably focused on other things, which is bad on me. I got to get better with that. But I remember calling that match and being so invested in the story that they were telling that I almost wasn't calling it as a professional. I was almost calling it as if I was the fan.
It's hard doing commentary. I'm going to tell you, I've done it recently. The last year, I've done it 3 or 4 times. Mm-hmm. It's challenging. You know what I mean? It's hard to separate yourself from fan to being neutral commentator.
That separation. I've had it a few times over the last year or so where I'm so into a match where I forget that I'm calling the match. And like there'll be like a quiet spot, and I'm just like, oh shoot, I gotta say something here to get the people invested.
Yeah, or I'll sit there and speak over the guy I'm working next to because I'm just like sitting there so intensified
Yeah,
by a match, and I'm just like, God damn, I keep fucking this up, and I'm like, maybe this guy should shut up, uh, let me speak. But
uh,
anyways, so we got Elevate on the 8th.
yeah,
Correct? Is that the date? And there's an amazing lineup.
yeah.
We're going close to almost 2 hours here. So we
Yeah, I get it.
so
Yeah.
we've got so much more that we probably can talk about. So of course I should have you back on. Maybe in a couple of weeks you can come back on. We'll do another blast of professional wrestling because actually love talking about professional wrestling with you. And
Yeah,
you're one of the guys. You're one of the guys out there that gets it.
exactly. And going back to the picture, and then we'll go right into Elevate. When you commented under the cashmere photo, I just knew. I was like, oh, he gets it. He gets it on a level that not a lot of people that I talk to get it. You get it. I can
One of the
for hours.
things, and that's always the case. Like you said, we talk to me for hours. Every time we see each other, we talk for hours about professional wrestling. I mean, literally after one of the last BSC shows in Bridgeport, we sat outside for about 2 hours talking wrestling, just random wrestling shit.
That was at Mega Clash, and I
Yeah.
remember because I walked. Okay, so before last part, then we're definitely gonna go over this part. I remember Mega Clash from a professional standpoint, and I walked out of that place very emotional because the crowd was hot that night.
So hot.
The main event was spectacular. The ladder match. Then you had the 6-man opener that could easily been called the show stealer of the night, and it was just top to bottom one of the best wrestling cards, biased completely, that I've been a part of. In any way, shape, or form, even as a fan or as a professional. And I remember walking out of there, I was like, that was the greatest professional night of my life. And I'm hoping to top that.
I literally, that show, I went to 5 shows that weekend. Literally. I think he had done that was the night that Coliseum was the night before in the same building.
Yep.
I went to, there was a company in, I think it's New Jersey, Victory Pro ran in some weird ass town in Connecticut, in the middle at on like a city park or something like that earlier in the day for free, which some guys that ended up in, that are on Wrestling Open were always there. Like Bryce Donovan is his name?
Yeah.
And what the fuck? The Even Stevens were there.
Yeah.
And a bunch of other guys there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think at night I had gone to your show, and then the next day I went to American Rana and Wrestling Open ran in White Eagle the same day. So literally, and that was probably, oh my god, you want to talk about a long ass day?
Yeah. I've been to a couple American Rana days. I get it.
Yeah, but there was the show before American Rana I went to, in the same building.
Both?
Yeah, I went to both. Literally, I got there and Open ran in the morning, and then early afternoon, and then ran American Rana at night. And literally, I was literally fucking dead by I got home. And mind you, 2:00 probably, in my 20s or early 30s might not have been that big of a deal, but at almost 50. I was damn near dead. I still woke up on Monday morning for work, and I was in the middle of moving into this new house that we have here. So,
oh, that's right, because you were moving into the new house.
Yeah, I literally just took that weekend off just to go to wrestling shows.
The Jersey J Cup, we talked about it earlier, was a similar situation. They had 2 shows, one at 2, one at 8. Me and Tiz, we were like 8 minutes away driving from the venue. We had stayed at a hotel overnight, and we were beat at the end of that night. We were just exhausted. Like coming back the next morning, the drive sucked because I was just beat.
Yeah, dude, it's not fun. As you get older, it gets worse.
It does. It does, absolutely. But yeah, Elevate is gonna be a phenomenal card.
I have the matches here, right here in front of me. I was looking for them. I got them.
We can talk. Let's talk the 4-way, the 4-way tag match. You got the Miracle Gen, the Haven. Haven is their home field advantage for the Haven. You got the Uptown Boys and Mark for Peace, Mark Alexander and Hippie Dicky Moon. Hippie Dicky coming back from an injury. This first time back in BST ring.
Yeah, I haven't
2
seen
weeks
him
now.
in quite some time, actually, Hippie
Got to
Dicky,
see
but
got to see
or
Tattoo Pro, and he looked like he's right. He looked like he hasn't missed a step. So it's cool. It's cool to have them back.
Mark Alexander is another kid that we did not mention him. I don't think through the out this episode at all. We've gone almost 2 hours. Holy shit! But when you love professional wrestling, it goes by fast.
Lose track of
Yeah.
time.
But Mark Alexander's another kid, and
Yeah.
we've talked a lot about local professional wrestling in the early days of New England and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But Mark Alexander's another guy that I think he's got a lot of potential.
Oh yeah,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
He is a great, 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 great wrestler. He's just got to add. There's something that he needs to add.
Yes.
I'm not quite sure what that is.
But when he finds it,
yes,
over.
Yes,
it's absolutely over. He is going to crush it. He's had some one-on-ones that I've seen recently, and man, every time I see him, I see things that he's tweaking a little bit more to make his wrestling that much better. I saw him versus Red Sawyer in the street fight, and man, they tore it up.
Yeah, Red Sawyer's another one, dude. That he's another young kid. I wouldn't say he's young, but I think he got into the business a little bit later. You know what I mean? And his character, his gimmick, what have you, I really like and appreciate. It's kind of close to what I think ideally in real life. You know what I mean? With the whole government and all that such, and there's all those punk rock patches all over his body. It's just like when I first saw that kid, I was like, he likes these bands. Like, I don't know many wrestling fans that like the band Grief or Heresy. Not that you might not. I don't know if you mentioned it, but what's that?
You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, I bet you if you looked at me and you didn't know me at all, you wouldn't be able to tell me what my favorite band was.
You're absolutely correct. I don't know. I just, I like looking at the patches that are on his gear. I literally was just like, dude, those are bands I all saw like in the 90s. You know what I mean? At like little dingy dive bars or what have you. And I was like, damn. I had a chance to speak to him, and he actually ended up having like mutual friends outside of professional wrestling, which was actually very funny. Like some musician friends that he's actually friends with somebody that did a radio show with back in the day. His name is Sean Bowen. He came in with a back patch of his band, my friend Sean. I said, hold up a second. I said, there's no fucking way this dude knows that band. So I went up to him. I said, do you know Sean Bowen? So oh yeah, blah blah blah. We had this whole conversation. I said, holy shit. I said, he's cool. And I saw him versus Ichiban at the last 2TW show, Tough and Talented show.
Okay.
Went all over the fucking arena.
Yep.
Killed it.
Yeah.
And Red Sawyer is one of those guys that's coming into his own.
So my first eyes on Red Sawyer went to a TOS show because he's out of the TOS dojo, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. Yeah.
And he was a replacement for Davey Richards, who was supposed to be there that night against Ichi.
I remember that. Okay, yeah.
Yep. And I remember going, oh well, I hadn't seen Red at the time, so I didn't know what he was capable of. And I remember walking out, I was like, oh, I didn't miss Davey Richards. You know what I'm saying? Like
it's one of those, yeah.
No, normally you're like, oh man, the replacement's not as good as the original. But man, I didn't miss Davey Richards at the end of the night, and that's a testament to Red Sawyer.
If you think about what you're hearing about Davey Richards now, the last couple weeks, so you're probably better off. Well, like I said earlier, like we've said earlier, there's two sides to every story. So, Davey Richards, one of those guys that went out there and poured his heart into professional wrestling. And now a lot of guys sometimes get a bad rap. And sometimes, I don't know. Like I said, there's two sides to every story. I don't want to defend him. I don't want to go against him either way. So,
yeah.
But anyways, back to Elevate.
So, you got the four team scramble. That's going to be fast paced, hot and heavy. You got some of the best tag teams in this Northeast, and if not the whole United States as a whole. So expect fireworks off the get go. Brad Baylor versus Mr. Evander James, everybody's favorite substitute teacher. I'm looking forward to that.
I've seen him once at a TOS show in Waterbury.
Great.
Okay.
I've been a fan of Evander James for a few years now, out of House of Glory, out of
Okay.
their show. So he's been trained by some really good people. He knows how to get away around the ring. I believe you're gonna have a good time seeing him, even in the future when you come to future BST and or TOS shows, because he does wrestle for TOS as well. Brad Baylor, we spoke highly of him earlier. He's one of the guys that is literally on that verge of exploding all over the Northeast. Then we got the Travis Jacobs out of the Monster Factory is making his BST debut. He's going up against Elijah Six, who's just coming back off an injury, and is now the 2TW champion.
That's another kid that we did not bring up. Jesus, we're merely missing a lot. Elijah Six.
You know why? It's not that we're missing them. It's just there's so many.
There's so many great talents in the state of Connecticut. Yeah.
And, in the same breath as we're saying Elijah Six, we can say the same for Sammy Diaz.
Sammy Diaz is one of those guys I've always said has star written all over him. I've been watching him for got to be about a good 5 to 6 years now. Phenomenal performer. Like this dude, he gets it. You know what I mean? You could look at a guy when he goes in there and does a certain thing.
Mm-hmm.
He gets it. Elijah Six, it took him some time. In my personal opinion, this is not an insult towards him. When I first started watching him, has to be about 4 or so years ago. I couldn't stand the kid, literally.
Red shorts?
No, he was wearing like these. Oh God, I don't even know what that. It was pre-red shorts though.
Okay.
It was like these kind of. I don't even want to know. They were like these long pants, kind of like I don't want to call like workout pants or something, but they were definitely was not entertaining or flattering in my personal opinion. But over time, give him the following year. I didn't see him for a couple months, and then the following year, I saw him. I said, "Holy shit, this kid's really improved, like literally." And give it now, he's even way fucking better, dude. Like this, like the first year, I was just like, I don't know about this guy, but that's just me being a guy that, and this isn't, like I said, not insulting to him at all. I don't mean to. I've been watching wrestling for 40 years.
Yeah,
you catch my drift. There's been a lot of guys I couldn't stand, and eventually this kid grew on me, and I decided, and I figured out this kid's one of the very promising kids out of Connecticut.
He's the best way. Elijah Six is on the come up. He's had some injuries, kind of like set him back a little bit.
Yeah,
but I believe this year is going to be a big year for Elijah Six.
100%. And him coming back at that 2TW show was just the beginning of, for it. And he's a guy I should probably try to reach out to try to get him to come on here as well.
His rise is going to be incredibly scary, and not in like he's going to do something crazy, but more like the way he's going to elevate and get to the top of the cards.
Yeah. He's put that work in. He's improved greatly. Like, you know what I mean? From those early days of me watching him. So I'm glad to see him improve because, and he's one of the things that he's always in character too.
Yep.
You know what I mean? He's one of those guys. And that's something I appreciate a lot.
Travis Jacobs, no slouch, himself.
Not at all.
And out of the Monster Factory, and the history. If you know the history of Monster Factory, they've developed champions. Guys like Damian Priest have gone through those.
Matt Riddle,
Matt Riddle, and held the title. So Travis Jacobs, being a former Monster Factory champion, coming and debuting in BST is very cool. I'm very happy to have him on board. Then you got some Monarchs division stuff with Mother Endless, La Chica Carreras, and Little Mean Kathleen, LMK, all fucking day. LMK is one of those guys one of those ladies, excuse me, that like she can have a serious match and have a really good competitive match, but when she also wants to have like some fun and some entertaining stuff, she can do that just as good. She's
Yeah.
literally the all around package when it comes to female wrestling. Um, so La Chica, no slouch herself. Very notable name in the Connecticut Indies. Wrestled
Yep.
for all up and down the Northeast. She's won titles at the Monster Factory as well. I believe she's a former tag team champion out there. So she's got her credentials. And then Mother Endless out of New Jersey. This is one of those ladies that I've heard and I've seen some stuff on her, and what I've seen, I've liked.
Right.
And she's gonna bring something different to Blood, Sweat, and Tears wrestling. And I'm actually very excited to see how the fans receive it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
The one that I personally think could steal the show, Bobby Buffet versus Andy Brown.
Bobby Buffet. I have not seen him in a while, but I'm going to tell you, I've seen him quite a bit, and I love that kid, man. There's something special about Bobby. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily something you can pinpoint, but he's just he's a great wrestler.
Yep.
You know what I mean? He's got the charisma. He can get over the fans.
Yep.
There's just something special about that guy. And he's also, like you said, a product of the Monster Factory. He's held that same belt that Damian Priest, Punishment Martinez, Matt Riddle's held, and a whole list of other. Those Monster Factory school students are not people to fuck with, dude. That is one of the most prestigious schools in the Northeast.
Absolutely. I won't fight you there. You know, Bobby Buffet coming off what I think it was like a year plus championship reign.
Absolutely.
He's now coming back to BST and against a guy whose reputation speaks for himself. Andy Brown is from California. I want to say, I hope I'm not wrong here, but I'm almost positive he was trained out of Santino's brothers.
Okay.
California. He's either trained or he went through that territory, has wrestled through PWG, which is the prominent indie in the United States of America. He's now wrestling up in Beyond and is the Blitzkrieg Bedlam champion, who he just dethroned VSK not too long ago. Guys' credentials list themselves at this point. And he's one of those guys where when we announced it, I got excited because I knew and I know what he's going to bring. This match is going to surprise a lot of people. I'm almost positive it's going to steal the show.
Yeah, dude, I believe it, man. That's it's always a fun time watching. But however, you're saying that that's going to steal the show, but this match that I'm looking at right underneath it, that could be a fucking good match.
Are we talking about Dan the Man versus Mantequilla?
Oh fuck yeah, dude!
Oh yeah.
Fuck, Dan the Man's no joke. Neither is Mantequilla, dude.
This is gonna be one of those matches where I think it's gonna highlight Mantequilla a lot.
Mantequilla is phenomenal, dude. Dude, I've had the chance to work with him in Empire and call one of his matches. Just, oh my god, dude! Him and versus Nutrius X, and I gotta tell you, that match was fucking amazing.
I believe it. Those are two names that can hold, that standard of having a really good match. Mantequilla, though, Dan, we all know how good Dan the Man is.
Yeah, dude.
Dan the Man.
The dude is virtual legend in this area. Literally.
Absolutely. Former TOS champion. Has literally, I believe he won. Did he win a title at T2T as well?
He was their champion, I believe. Is it considered undisputed? The title's over there. Yeah.
But the man has held titles everywhere he's gone. With the mission behind him, he's pretty unstoppable. pretty unstoppable.
It's all about the mission. That's all I'm saying. I love the mission. A lot of people.
I will hold my comments to myself because being on commentary with Senor Dan has been a hoot, I guess to say. Speaking
It's okay.
of the mission, then you got the reigning, defending Monarchs champion, who is gonna be in attendance, and she doesn't have a match as of right now, but
Okay.
we don't know what she's gonna do here, so you have that to look forward to. JC Storm is making her debut. She's gonna have. I'm not sure who she's gonna go against, but JC Storm's another one of those women, monarchs, so to speak, who have been tearing it up. As of late throughout the Northeast, has gone. I believe she was just in Florida not too long ago. She's doing stuff in New York. She's one of those Northeast females who are doing crazy stuff out here as far as like their resume goes. And then you got the main event.
Dude, this main event, I'm going to tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
Like we said, we've been pushing Lucas Chase throughout this whole episode.
Yep.
We've talked very highly of him as if he's the Hogan or the Flair of the Northeast right now. Literally. And I'm not going to discredit that. I'm going to say, all right, fuck yeah. He's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Like right now, because this match against Matias is on the rise again, man.
Yeah.
He's been out there killing it. He hasn't had a lot of time to work Paradise Alley, but he's a former Paradise Alley world champion.
Yep.
He's worked there for many, God knows how long, quite many years.
I talked about it earlier. He's one of those guys who, and I don't say this, and I told this to him the last time I saw him, and I still don't understand. He was coming in on a time, same with Richard Holiday. Those two were 1A and 1B.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what happened. And I fully believe that Matias should be in the same position as someone like a Richard Holiday. Why isn't he not on my TV? I don't understand it. I don't. I fully believe that Matias should be on TV.
Yes.
And him with the credentials he has, being a Northeast legend, and I'm going to say that he is a Northeast legend. When people hear Matias, people go, that's the man. I would say this match is Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat in this era of wrestling.
That's a great comparison.
These two are going to fucking tear the house down. And I say that with full bias. I don't care. These two are going to tear the fucking house down. And if you're not there April 8th to watch this, you're going to miss out on probably one of the best wrestling matches in this era of Northeast wrestling.
I'm going to tell you that the last, roughly a year, Matias has gotten out there working for several different companies, between Test Strength and BST. And it's not that he ever wasn't good, because he was always good. Yeah. It's that he's just been, there's just a different step when he's out there facing different competition. Catch my drift? Or he's in a different company and he's doing different things. It's just, he's a guy that's just, I don't know how to describe it, dude. He's just off the charts good.
He's one of those wrestlers. Matias is one of those wrestlers where he's so good at what he does that it doesn't matter whether you put him in the opener, in the middle of the card, or the main event, and he's always gonna fucking light up the crowd.
He delivers. Absolutely. He's
every
got a really great following, dude. There's a lot of people that absolutely love him. And yeah, man, I think that him getting out there to BST is just, it's good for him in his wrestling career, I think.
when you hear those horns, you
It's the
know,
Meek Mill song, dude.
yes. When you hear those horns in the beginning, you know you're about to be in for a treat. You know, this whole card is is top to bottom
Yeah,
a banger of a card.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
you know, I will say this: we are about 3 tickets away from selling out front row,
Okay.
and our ticket sales have been great. I'm very excited to see the house.
This is a new. This is also a very new venue for BST as well.
very new territory for us. You know, I can say that as of this moment, and I may get a little bit of trouble for this, but we are gonna surpass our biggest show to date, which was Mega Clash.
Okay.
We have already surpassed that, and that alone excites me. I'm so ready for this show. I'm resting my throat. You know, I'm making sure I drink a lot of tea and keeping everything mellow.
It's whiskey. That's what helps. Whiskey. I'm telling you.
I'm gonna have to try on that whiskey, but I am preparing myself for probably one of the greatest nights in wrestling that I've ever been a part of.
Man, this card looks like a gigantic stacked card, and I'm so sorry I gotta miss it because I really wish I can be there because it's if my damn sister-in-law wasn't getting married for a third time, I would definitely be there.
Hey,
But anyways,
you know what you do? Right, ready? It got COVID, can't make it.
well, I did that for my wife's uncle's wedding. But anyways, but I showed up the following. The worst part was I showed up the following week to another wedding in the same venue. So, anyways, where is the give info on the venue so that we can play it out there so these fans are here that listen can check it out.
If you're traveling up north, 95, and you go, you take, 95, go to 91 merger, right off exit 5, literally to your right. As soon as you get off the exit, to the right is the District Athletic Club.
And that's James Street in New Haven, Connecticut.
I believe so.
Oh, it is. Trust me, I've seen it. Okay. I had to research where James Street was, so it's yeah.
So we're literally right off the exit, and then I believe if you're coming south, it's still exit 5, but you got to take a left instead of the right.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's the best way to get to the District Athletic Club. You can't miss it. It's literally it's literally as soon as you pass the underpass, it's gonna be right to your right. It's a very cool venue that I'm very excited to run, and I'm very excited to see where the future holds for BSD.
I'm very excited, and hopefully, according to you, that you're going to be running there in the future, and so I hope to make it to the next one. However, we'll look through, of course, the YouTube footage, and I'll let everybody know here when that stuff is up as you guys upload it. And I'm looking forward because, especially the Chase and Matthias match, I'm really looking forward to that one.
There's a couple matches on here that I'm kind of like, man, these are the ones. These are it. These are gonna make everybody go nuts.
Yeah. Harry, I want to thank you for coming on here and making me talk all night about professional wrestling because it's my favorite thing to talk about, and having a couple cocktails. So I want to thank you so much for coming in. Where can people find you? Go ahead. Where can people find you and BST on the socials?
On BST, for BST, it's I believe BST Wrestling on Instagram and Twitter. I'm gonna verify that as we speak. Give me 1 second here. I know there was BST Wrestling _. I knew there was an underscore there. So BST Wrestling _ on Instagram, on Twitter. We are at. Excuse me here. I apologize again. It's late night. Please bear with me. BST _ wrestling. On Facebook, as I believe Blood, Sweat, and Tears Wrestling. You can look us up all there. For me specifically, Ultra HD1 on Instagram. On Twitter, I am I don't even know my own handle. That's bad. Harry Davila BST All the ticket information for Elevate is in my bio. Should be in the bios as well for all the BS2 websites. Come have fun with us on April 8th. It's gonna be a hell of a show.
It's going to be a hell of a show. I urge every single fan that's listening to go check it out. It's going to be a blast.
Yes.
I could go another 2 hours with you, but I think we should save that for another week.
Absolutely.
I want to thank you again very much for coming on. This has been a blast, man.
Oh man, you give me the date. Text me whenever you want me back on. I'll be on there with you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
No problem, man.